Hey guys, welcome back to another great game of CEDH. Starting us off is Hidden on Nadu, Winged Wisdom, another Simic value list, aiming to utilize zero equip artifacts to both ramp and gain card advantage. With Hidden's opening hand hoping to have both a quick Nadu and a Tribute Mage for Lightning Greaves. Next up is Mike on Kinnan. Stereotypical Kinnan, ramp a bunch and slam big creatures. Today he's kept a turn 1 Rhystic, hoping to use it to refill, as his only interaction is a Glenelendra. In the third spot is Noah with Tymna Kraum. This is a quintessential value commander pairing, letting you gain card advantage on 2 separate axes, while also having access to all the powerful combos CEDH is known for. This hand has acceleration with Gemstone and a turn 1 Esper Sentinel into Tymna, which should give him the cards back in spades. And bringing up the rear is Griffin on Bruse Thrasios. This is a Dawnwalker variant looking for several different infinite mana combos, or to use Seedborn and Thrasios to grind advantage. With his hand being a bit slower, but having Dockside in it, with this table might just be able to swing something early.
Alright, block there, kill that. Oh, that is trample. Guess I'm just dead on board.
Hey guys, I wanted to pop in real quick to remind people that I'm holding a giveaway to celebrate hitting 5K. And if you want more info, check out last week's video for the contest, as it's only got a week left. But I guess without further ado, let's get on to the gameplay. Noah has a pregame as he puts the Gemstone Caverns into play, exiling an Otawaro. Hidden starts off the game proper with a Boseiju. Next is a Chromox imprinting a Chain of Vapor, with him ending his turn casting a Birds of Paradise. Mike cracks a Polluted Delta for a Tropical Island, and taps the land for a Soul Ring. He follows that up with a Lotus Petal, cracking the petal to upcast a turn 1 Rhystic. Noah has a City of Brass's land for turn, and decides to be responsible as he casts an Esper Sentinel and pays the 1. Griffin has a much quicker turn 1, as he just plays out a Flooded Strand. Hidden has a Command Tower as land, and taps 3 for his Commander Nadu, also paying the 1. Mike plays a Waterlogged Grove as land and casts his own Birds of Paradise. Noah heads to his turn and figures one card isn't so bad as he casts a Dark Ritual. Mike draws, with Noah using the black to help cast his commander Tymna. He can use the extra mana to pay the Rhystic this time, with him then heading to combat. He sends the Esper Sentinel at Mike, who doesn't block, with Noah on his second main paying a life to draw off Tymna. Griffin has a Misty Rainforest and cracks both his fetches to grab out a Tundra and a Tropical Island. He then casts his own Esper Sentinel and pays the 1, handing the turn over after that. Hidden plays a Dryad Arbor as land for turn, and for 3 casts a Tribute Mage. He lets Mike draw, and unfortunately for Hidden, he actually thought it was a Trinket Mage, as he grabs out a Lightning Greaves and passes. Mike cracks a Flooded Strand for an untapped Breeding Pool. He then taps 2 for his commander Kinnan, before tapping some more mana to cast a Glenelendra Archmage.
I really want to feed this. Honestly, half of my hand is 0 and the other half is 1.
Noah then heads to combat and sends Tymna at Griffin, who takes the hit, with Noah spending 1 of his 2 life gain to draw a card, with him then on his second main casting a Soul Ring. He lets Mike and Griffin draw as he follows it up with a Jeweled Lotus, this time paying the 1. He then ends his turn by casting a Lion's Eye Diamond, using the last of his floating colorless to pay for the tax. Griffin draws and misses his land drop. Unfortunately, he didn't fetch out a red source and decides to just hold up interaction, as he discards an Internal Witness due to hand size. Hidden heads to his turn and plays out a Flooded Strand as land. He then cracks the fetch for an untapped Breeding Pool, and then uses 2 to cast his Tutored Greaves. He gives everyone a draw, with Mike cracking his Glenelendra to try to counter the spell. But Hidden responds with a Veil of Summer. He lets Mike draw, but he passes priority, as Noah, fearing the worst, casts a Pact of Negation. He pays for the Rhystic, but gives Griffin a draw. But responding to this draw, Hidden fires off a Force of Negation. He has to let Mike draw, with Griffin this time responding with a Brainstorm. He lets Mike and Noah draw, with him then drawing and putting 2 back on top. Griffin doesn't necessarily have an answer, but at least has a stopgap, as he casts a Chain of Vapor, targeting Nadu. Mike will draw off the Rhystic, with him responding to the Nadu trigger. Hidden has cast 3 spells so far, as Mike puts a Mindbreak trap onto the stack, to exile the Veil and Lightning Greaves. This is technically Mike's first spell, as he lets both Noah and Griffin draw off their Esper Sentinels. The Mindbreak does resolve, exiling Hidden spells, except for the Pact of Negation, with the Nadu trigger putting an Eldritch Evolution to hand. The Nadu is then bounced, with Hidden not continuing the chain. The Pact then counters the Force, with the Glenelendra finally coming back due to Persist. The stack is now clear, with Hidden ending his turn there. Mike starts off his turn with an overloaded Psych Rift.
Trigger.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Why are you main phasing this? What the fuck?
The Rift resolves, with Mike playing out and cracking a Misty for a basic island, ending his turn discarding a land due to hand size. Noah untaps and dies due to the Pact. He was holding a Demonic Consultation, but unfortunately does not run Stifle, as the turn moves over to Griffin. Griffin plays and cracks a Polluted Delta to grab out a Volcanic Island. He then casts a Chrome Mox, imprinting a Finhorn Elves. He lets Mike draw, and then follows this up with his Esper Sentinel. Mike draws again, with Griffin ending his turn with a Bloom Tender, finally paying the 1. Hidden starts off his turn with his own Chrome Mox. He pays for the Rhystic, but not the Esper Sentinel. He imprints his Tribute Mage, and then casts a Birds of Paradise. He pays the 1, and ends his turn there. Mike plays out a basic Forest, and casts a Finale of Devastation, where X equals 5. He pays for the Esper, with Griffin responding with a Force of Will, exiling a Mystical Tutor to do so. But Mike still has his Glenelendra, which he uses to counter the spell. Mike also draws off his Rhystic as he grabs a Seedborn Muse from the search. He then follows this up by sacrificing his Waterlogged Grove for a crop rotation. He finds out a Gaia's Cradle and then taps the Cradle to help cast a Grim Monolith, passing after that. Granted, it's almost like he passed to himself, as both he and Griffin untap. Griffin then plays out a Gemstone Caverns as land, and for 2 casts a Dockside Extortionist. He pays for the Rhystic and nets 4 treasures, spending 3 of them to cast a Ranger Captain of Eos. He pays for the Rhystic, and in response, Mike casts a Hullbreaker Horror. But responding to this, Griffin casts a Crop Rotation. He sacrifices his Gemstone Cavern, and is unfortunately out of mana to pay for the Rhystic. However, responding to the trigger, Hidden casts a Mindbreak trap of his own, as Mike will just go infinite with his Horror on his next turn. Hidden does debate also countering the Crop Rotation, but knows the threat is still Mike at the table. The Hullbreaker is exiled, with Griffin finding a Gaia's Cradle off his own Crop Rot. Griffin then finds an Elvish Mystic off the Ranger Captain ETB, and then taps to cast his Commander Thrasios. He pays for the Rhystic, and then follows all of this up with a Derevi, continuing to pay for the Rhystic. The bird resolves, with him untapping his Bloom Tender off the ETB. Granted, he taps it almost immediately to cast a Rhystic Study. He pays, and then heads to combat. He sends his Esper Sentinel at Hidden, and when it connects, untaps his Bloom Tender again. With Mike at his end step, activating Kinnan. He looks at the top 5, and finds a Perplexing Chimera. Hidden and Mike untap, with Hidden playing Rejuvenating Springs as land for turn. Hidden then pays 3 mana into a Green Sun, where X equals 2. Hidden pays for Mike's Rhystic, but not Griffin's Rhystic or Esper, as Mike debates activating that Chimera. He decides not to, and lets Hidden search, who's not even sure what to grab himself. He looks through the list and settles on a Volatile Stormdrake, which enters and tries to take Kinnan. Mike responds by activating Kinnan. He looks at the top 5 and finds a Thorn Mammoth, which enters and fights a Ranger Captain. Mike then activates Kinnan again, this time finding an Elvish Mystic. This triggers the Mammoth again, this time fighting the Esper Sentinel, with Kinnan then switching sides for now. Hidden then taps his mana to cast an Eldritch Evolution, sacrificing his Dryad Arbor. Hidden pays for Mike's Ristic, but not Griffin's. Mike still wants to keep his Chimera, as Hidden finds a Flesh Duplicate. Now, there's a lot of juicy targets, and honestly, even looking back, I'm not sure what the correct move is. So tell me what you would have done in the comments down below. But Hidden ends up making a clone of Dockside, as he still has a Kinnan, and is hoping for some miracles. Hidden makes 6 treasures, and then cracks 4 of them to spin Kinnan. He looks at the top 5 and unfortunately whiffs, following all this up by casting his commander Nadu, feeding 1 more card to Griffin. Mike untaps and casts a Mox Amber. Then for 2, he casts his own Gilded Drake. He pays for the Ristic, floating a bit of mana through his Cradle, with Griffin responding with a delay. He also pays for the Ristic and counters the Drake. Mike then casts a Thrasios and pays for the Ristic. There's a fight trigger on the Mammoth, with it targeting Kinnan. This will put a Nadu trigger on the stack, with Hidden revealing a Spellskite off the top. The fight goes through, and Mike then recasts his commander. He pays for the Ristic once again, and this time fights Derevi. A Verdant then comes out as land for turn, with him cracking the fetch. He goes looking for a forest, and actually realizes he's out of lands, following that up by activating Kinnan once again. This time he finds a Llanowar Elves. There's another fight trigger, with it fighting the Birds of Paradise. Nadu triggers and reveals a command beacon to put into play as the bird dies, with Mike then tapping the last of his mana to activate Thrasios, putting a Mental Misstep into hand. Mike then heads to combat and sends 14 at Griffin. Griffin and Mike untap, with Griffin playing out a Waterlogged Grove as land for turn. He then casts a Mana Crypt and pays the 1. Griffin has a Wargate in hand, but needs a way of getting rid of the Chimera. And unfortunately, he doesn't have anything else. And with that, the table are actually fine just to scoop it up and give the game to Mike, winning him the game. Game review. Well, even as hyped as Nadu is getting, I still think Kinnan reigns supreme as the best Simic commander. The only thing Hidden wished he had done differently was, instead of lead with his boots, he really should have led with his Veil of Summer, as even if Mike had chose to spend his Glenelendra, Hidden just could have waited for a later turn to try and go off. As with all the counters spent on Hidden's turn, there really wasn't anything stopping Mike from just tutoring out a Seedborn. Although, as this was Mike's actual first time playing list, he didn't realize he actually just had the win if he had gone for Hullbreaker Horror straight out. But I think overall it really was inevitable with how the game played out. Thanks to everyone who joined for the game, and before anyone leaves, I want to thank our special Patreon members, Slyfox, Tango Down, and Holy Septic for the support of the channel, along with all of our other Patreon supporters as well. And remember, never give up, even if you're dead on board. I'll see you guys later.